Hi everybody, welcome. This is episode 22 of Random Encounter. Slowly but surely getting up to the quarter century. And we have got ourselves into a nice quiet situation, really. They found this automaton that's on the floor and everything else. But before we get all into that sort of the episode, as it were, the stuff that happens, just a quick reminder for everybody that's watching that we have a certain collection of bits and pieces that we utilize and we use, and just making sure that we're advertising the good stuff that's out there and everything else. So for the first for the first part of this, we use Foundry, which is our main VTT, or certainly my main VTT. I still use that for pretty much everything I do. I love Foundry, and I think the integration for Pathfinder is pretty much spot on, in so much that I must not be the only one that thinks that, because Paizo are buying into it, and they're going to have a nice official module for Abomination Vaults coming out the Wednesday after this recording, which we are going to pick up. We won't necessarily have it for the next two recordings, because I've been basically told by my players that I shouldn't just spend all my time doing all of their slots, and they're nodding at me, right? Yeah, all right then, fair enough. And we'll be sort of integrating that. You'll see it not in episode 24, but actually episode 25. So our quarter century will start most likely with the new stuff. Then we have also been using Sirenscape. We love having some music or sounds in the background. I mean, it's an eternal nightmare balancing all of the sounds that we use for all of the recordings and making sure that they work for everybody. But we do our best, and we're going to try and keep doing that. We use a number of other bits and pieces. We have a Facebook group, which you can see a link for on the screen right now. It's just below me, underneath the Random Encounter logo, as is our Twitter account, which is down there as well. You should be able to see all the various other logos that we have running along here, including our own, which is quite nice. And then on top of that, right next to each of these players is their current token, which is nicely visible and shows the artwork that we got from a lovely close friend of ours. We know, generally speaking, as Dando, but Becky, do you remember the actual link? The actual what's their studio name again?
I might have been hastily scrolling through Facebook trying to find it again. If you can generally find them on Instagram. Their handle is @Starkey Studios. Starkey is spelled Starkey.
Yeah, so Starkey Studios. They're the ones that did the art for us, sort of a chibi, cartoony type style, which I massively appreciate and I really like, and the tokens for these guys look awesome, and yeah, we try and do as much as we can with that. Is there anything else to really sort of mention? No, I guess not. I guess that's pretty much most of the stuff. I mean, I can go through all the editing software that we use, but I'm not going to bother with that, because that's just silly, and other people have better options, I am sure, out there. I just use the stuff I can afford. So, yeah, what we're going to do is...
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored. We are not sponsored by anyone. We are more than happy to be sponsored. Please note, if anybody should ever decide that they wish to jump on here and have us advertise their stuff, we are more than happy to do that. That would definitely be something that we're happy for, because basically anything that we can sort of achieve through that will go into making this whole thing better anyway. So that's the kind of big things on us. Now then, in terms of this sort of episode, as it were, you have been clearing out an area occupied by a collection of creatures known as Morlocks. These appear to be some sort of humans that have been tainted by a certain length of time deep underground, not seeing the light of day, and they have become very peculiar looking creatures. Wide-eyed, long gangly limbs, and a little bit crazy. And in the first instance of meeting these, you met a pair of Morlocks that were carrying ballista type weapons and tried to shoot Mosran several times. Then the next bunch that you fought jumped you in a pack and really started trying to take chunks out of you. And you've now just encountered two more that you were able to sort of corner in a room and stop from really doing much else. But what they were doing was digging around inside a automaton, a rather interesting looking automaton. All sorts of copper and clockwork and various other bits and pieces, and they've managed to open up the internals of this thing. It looks possible that you could salvage some of the contents of this creation. It's most definitely not moving anymore, and the pieces are not really intact, but there's enough bits in there that you could probably do something with it, especially somebody, if there is anybody in your group that has a certain amount of skill in crafting, could potentially have a go at pulling this thing apart. Okay. Anybody that wishes to, and I'm not going to make this a secret roll, you are going to know how successful you are the second you start doing this. Can you please make a crafting check for me, please, Phelan?
Yes, Phelan will take some time to take this apart. That is a grand total of... Where's my character sheet? Nope, that's not my character sheet. It goes hererg. It is a hippopotamus.
That's not my sheep.
Okay, that's crafting of 18.
18, and 18 is just enough. You fairly certain if you were less delicate than you had been, you'd have possibly have broken some of these bits and pieces, but you actually managed to bring out quite a few of the intricate gear workings and almost have intact sections of this stuff. You believe that if you took this up to Atari at any point and handed it over to potentially some of the slightly more eccentric people up on the top, or maybe even just some people in the marketplace, you think you've got about 40 gold's worth of intricate, small pieces of gearwork that you could hand over. So that is just functionally there as a kind of like a treasure item, almost like finding gems, but a slightly more interesting variant, I believe.
Bang it in the loot box and we'll...
Gently put it in the loot box.
Yeah.
Who carries the loot for the most part?
Who has a strength score?
I was going to say, so some of the more delicate stuff is probably going to be in Neffy's pockets. If it's larger and or more weapon-like, it's probably slung in a ruck that Moz is carrying, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you've not got a massive amount of bulk's worth of stuff. The studded leather that you're currently carrying is probably the biggest thing that you've got that would make life difficult. It's just to bear in mind that this stuff is carried and placed somewhere. So let's be a little bit more aware of what's going on.
Do we want to take? There's Neffy, Invar, can you have a listen to those doors? Let's see if there's anything stray on these doors. Let's take a minute.
Okay. So, put the
just because you're standing next to them.
All right. You are going to spend a little bit of time listening and perceiving. Is anybody else joining, or is this while... I'm assuming this is while Phelan is doing stuff, so he's not really...
Probably.
Concurrent activity being what it is.
Yeah. Okie dokie. So... okay. Moz and Inver, you're probably a little bit too distracted by what's going on in terms of this intricate thing. You've not really ever seen anything like this. Neffy, clockwork, it's something you've heard about. Actually, Cheliax and areas like that you have been to. There are people that have these sorts of things, so it doesn't bother you so much. while you're stood by the northern door, it's pretty darn quiet. You're fairly comfortable with that. As you get to that southern door, you can hear what sounds like dripping water. And every now and again, something that sounds a little bit like a moan. It's the only word that you can give that sound. It's deep, it's pained, it doesn't quite sound right.
We should start with that one.
I was more thinking, yeah.
Start with the other one.
Oh, part of my brain was going to want to drop these bits of gear into people's pockets to spread out the loot, as loosely inspired by the GM. But
Yeah, let's do
push
that
on.
first.
Let's do that. If you want to do that, we can just pause the recording, just make sure that we're not taking up too much of the recording time. So let's just do that, and we'll have a little bit of a wash around. All right, so we are back. A little bit of bookkeeping, a little bit of shuffling things around, discovering that people were loosely carrying everything from their backpack rather than having it in their backpack, and various other bits and pieces, which were causing some weight difficulties. But also they've been able to resolve some of the items that they found and where they've put them, and the odd one or two things that are left in a bag just at the top of the stairs, just to make sure that they remember to pick them up later. However, we still have this question about which way do you want to go?
What do you want to do with your life?
Quiet way.
The quiet.
I've been hit one too many times, so I want to go quiet way.
I would quite like to go and rescue the person who's moaning.
Okay, so what you're saying is we're opening both doors at the same time. Cool, I'm into it.
No!
Totally agree with this.
Trigger
No!
all the
Right.
encounters.
I open one, you open the other. Got you.
No!
I nod my head, you hit it. Right.
What, your head?
I think
There we go.
Group
Inval
Mum
looks-
says no.
Over at Phelan in a sort of what do we do with them kind of way.
Moz, make decision.
Top door.
Neffy, listen to Moz.
Neffy, open the door you're in front of. Let's go.
Okay. I open the door.
Okay. With a bit of a shove
Keep up,
and a
Dad.
push. The north and south walls of this hall have been decorated with a bewildering array of timbers, metal parts, gears, bits of broken weapons, and trash.
Like my room in college.
I'm not looking at my workbench. Does it look like they're trying to put something together on the walls here?
It does look a little bit like that, yeah.
I look for traps.
You look for traps. Is that an everybody looks for traps, or is that just Neffy looks for traps?
Moz is just stand back here and look for traps.
I'm not looking for traps, I'm looking for threats.
I mean, traps do count as threats, so
Mobile.
mobile
I would say
threats.
living,
I have-
but not entirely.
Okie dokie.
I have the feet trap finder.
Okay, explain what Trap Finder does.
You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to perception checks to find traps, to AC against attacks made by traps. That might help me last time.
Might
And
have.
saves against traps.
Okay. So you kind of initially start poking your head into this room and looking around, and on the advice of Moz and on the general sort of feeling that something is going on in this room, you start to immediately, very, very quickly, in fact, just with the way that your eyesight is keened in on these things, you very quickly spot 4 hidden spike launchers that sort of go every 5 foot into this room. There is another one, and then another one, and then another one.
Glad I checked.
So, I mean, you've already technically stepped into the room, but you are well aware that there is one right next to you.
All up a minute.
That you could potentially have done. And what you spot is every single 5 foot sort of block, there is a thin wire at various different heights across the room.
I have a cunning plan. Hold up a minute, Neffy. And out of his bandolier, very, very, very gently and very surreptitiously, Mosran will slowly wheedle out a grappling hook and a length of rope. Tripwires. Grappling hook. Throw the grappling hook. Pull the rope. Trip the wires. No one gets hurt. Everyone gets away with it.
I move out of the way.
Let's see if the DM will allow this bullshit.
So, I am absolutely going to allow this. Effectively, what I'm going to say is you can either use Thievery to try and disable each trap one at a time, or you can use Athletics by virtue of the little option that you've created to effectively be good enough to throw the grappling hook so that it catches near enough to a wire that you can pull it and it actually will trigger that wire. So it is up to you. You can use either skill to do this to effectively attempt to disable each of these things. You can also, should you want to, you could acrobatically cross the room to not set the traps off.
Looks down at plate armor. Looks across at +5 acrobatics. Looks down at plate armor. I'm just aware, Neffy, last time we got you to run and start pushing buttons and disabling things at a rapid rate of knots, you got blasted in the face. You were also muted.
To be fair, we did not know that the traps were there when I got hit. Once I knew they were there, I was fine.
It's up to you if you feel
I don't
confident with it.
mind going in to deactivate. I can try that.
Yeah, give it a try. If they go off near you, then we'll revert to. If they start taking you out, we'll revert to shenanigans.
Okay.
So again, my personal opinion, disarming traps is something that you're gonna know about in this case if you fail it. So I would like you to make a thievery check on the first trap, which is in the first 5 foot of the doorway.
3.
Something 3 or flat 3.
23.
Oh, it's easy. It's like the easiest thing in the world. They haven't even like built into this any sort of it works on a tension system, so the tension of somebody stepping into it fires it. So you immediately realise that if you just simply cut the wire, it doesn't work anymore because there's no tension anymore. So you go in and you just sort of snip that first one. But that's just the first one. There are still 3 others.
24.
Yep, no problems. Again, the next 5 foot just cleared away.
19.
Slightly more tricky. It looks like they tried to be a little bit more clever with this one, but in the end you figure that just a little bit of counterweight on the end, no problems. Just put that little thing on, just snip it away.
$21.
And this one, again, nice and simple. You just cut your way through it. No issues whatsoever.
I do a cartwheel in the room and I'm like, look, guys, I did it!
Yep. Well done. Good job.
I listen at this door.
You listen at the door. Okay.
And detect magic.
And detect magic. Wow. I mean, cheeky. You, firstly, on the detect magic, you do not detect anything magical coming from sort of within 30 foot of you. There's no ping, there's no nothing like that. When you listen at the door, you are convinced that there's just nothing in there. It's silent.
Okay. I relay that information.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's come back down. Let's get this other door checked. Let's see what creepy, weird noises are.
Oh, I
one got
like
two.
the way you think.
Clear the room. We know there's nothing immediate there. Worst case scenario, it's going to come through a door and we're going to know about it.
Should we shut the door behind Neffy then,
Nope. We want a line of sight.
as opposed
shut
to
the
an
door.
obstacle?
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I can't hear too well through two sets of doors. Through one set of doors when I'm a bit busy might
You
be
also
awkward.
can't be hit through that many doors.
Yeah. You can go with that.
Invar being at the front has another listen.
Another listen at that south door.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a listen at that door at the south. You can vaguely hear the dripping water sound. And maybe there's another noise there, but you can't quite pick it out. It could be anything, could just be the wind. If there's some
Okay.
sort of like air vent or whatever into whatever chamber's on the other side.
I'm going in, so I will spend the 2 actions to open the door because I don't think athletics is one of my skills. It is not. Can I open it?
You absolutely can. So, the first thing you spot, and just to remind you, do use stealth, don't you, for most of this when you're just
do.
wandering around?
Yes.
Okay. So, your stealth value is 5. Okay. So, the first thing you notice is that the room that you open up in the door into is a 10 foot by 10 foot sort of square. It appears to have once been some sort of washroom. One wall of this washroom, however, has been gouged out by sharp claws, revealing a rough hewn tunnel leading to the west. However, that's not all you can see with your brilliant dark vision, and the fact that you have been the person to open the door might have been your slight saving grace, because while a little bit of light from Phelan has bled into the chamber on the other side, it's not the only space that you can see. And looking down through that chamber, down to the other end, you spot that there must be some sort of open cave that appears on the other side. And lurking in that space is a creature best left to most people's nightmares.
Ew.
This twisted, slug-like body with a humanoid torso and face, long limbs with clawed hands on the end. What was once potentially hair is now tentacles. Whatever you kind of best can describe it as. And it doesn't seem to have noticed you open the door. Your inherent attempts to be as stealthy as possible, even when shoving this waterlogged door open, has meant that at least you it hasn't spotted.
Okay. So let's get rid of that disgusting nightmare-worthy picture.
It is fairly horrific.
I am gonna assuming I
Oh,
can.
there's a hand.
So
Can I see
I
it?
want
Can you see it from there?
Mm.
You can just about see little bits of it floating around.
Sorry, carry on.
so
Carry on, Cass.
I want to sneak into that space,
Mm-hmm.
but the way the system works, I have to do it as two. Whereas really, she's ducking right into the shadow
Yeah.
and sliding carefully around the wall to, not step into its line of sight as far as possible.
I mean, you're fairly happy with the fact that it hasn't seen you. It does seem to be aware that there is light, though, and it is kind of slowly crawling its way curiously in that direction.
So I'm going to use my message spell to tell Moz to get in here, because we've got a nice narrow entranceway.
Is this a reply to message, or is this a...
You can respond, and I will hear it telepathically, the same way you hear the sent message.
Okay, big or problematic?
Problematic.
Okay.
Slug-like, has claws.
Okay, stand by. And he will very quietly say to Phelan and Effie, they've found something, and we're going in.
Can I try and identify it?
I will allow that because you could see it just out of combat, but as Moz steps in, it will lock eyes with Moz.
Yep.
And it will start moving towards. However, I will allow that roll to identify just out of combat because it didn't spot Invert or Neffy because they were being stealthy. And for the purpose of this, because of the rolls that were made, Invert and Neffy are effectively hidden for that first turn as well. So that will be useful for them. So, Neffy, you want to try and identify what this thing is. Okay, I shall do that roll for you. You've vaguely heard about this creature. Not a lot of detail about it, but you have heard about this thing. It is a creature known as a Grothlut.
Sounds as horrible as it looks.
Well, the thing that makes this more disturbing and more unpleasant than anything else that realistically you have heard of before is that this used to be a human. This is a creature created by a process known as flesh warping. And the moaning and all the rest of it is something to do with what happened to them to turn them into this thing. What would you like to know? Defenses, offensive abilities, or any passive things that it might be able to do?
Abilities.
The passive abilities.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first thing is that it can use that moan as a weapon. It can choose to wail and moan in something called a piteous moan. In doing so, all creatures within 60 foot that is not a Grothlut must make a will saving throw or become sickened by the sound. But the main thing that you would become very aware of when you kind of go, okay, I know what it is, and let me think about, oh my goodness. They have something called a disgusting demise. When they are reduced to 0 hit points, they explode.
Oh no.
in a ball of acid.
Pulls that crossbow.
Now, that's everything you know about it. Should we roll for initiative?
Oh dear God,
As
roll
Moz
high. Oh dear God,
steps
roll high.
forward, unfortunately, this creature immediately kind of spots and decides it wants to join in with this game. So, yeah, we're going to roll an initiative. So, just as a note, you do still have the plus to your initiative for scouting. So, just make sure that you are rolling that extra one in. Okay. And I'll start with Inver.
Had a falling noise
13.
in basis bed.
Plus 5 plus 1 gives me 19.
19.
Mhm.
Okay. Moz.
15 plus 6 plus 1 puts me on 22.
Nippy old fighters. Neffy.
24.
24. Even nippier rogues. And the druid in the group goes for a
20 all in.
20 all in. I mean, that's pretty good rolls, guys. That's pretty good rolls. So we're going to just spin up a little bit of combat music, hopefully, he says. Come on, Sirenscape. Behave. Now. Come on, we did
What does Boris get?
we did everything. We did everything to give you the chance to, be promoted and everything. It would be really helpful if you would actually swap the music. No.
It's alright, I've got it on my recording.
No. What,
It's
combat?
not stop playing.
Combat
Yeah.
music?
Yeah, it's not stop playing.
What on earth is going on?
I mean, turn it off and on again.
There is a certain amount of turn it off and on again going on here. So yeah, let's do that. Goodness me. We'll always fight with technology. That's kind of the rules.
It's almost a saying on my stream. It's not a real stream unless there's one technical fault.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you. My Sirenscape now is not loading. Let's come. So, technical problems. They're bound to have happened at some point. Sirenscape is not working for most of us. Effectively, some people have got music from like half an hour ago still playing on theirs. And you guys have certainly been hearing different stuff on here. I tried to restart and it's not restarting. So that is a problem, but it is a problem we will just have to ignore. So for the purposes of carrying on this little contest, we are going to just start this encounter. And we're going to start it with Neffy, because Neffy is going to get to go first. You are aware that the creature has kind of started sneaking around the bottom, but yeah, that's pretty much the situation you are in.
So I'm going to go up to here and then ping a shot.
Ping a shot at it. So what I will say is there's a tiny little bit of a cover situation here because it's kind of poking round a corner, as it were. So this is going to affect its armor class ever so slightly, but it is flat-footed to you because of the fact that you're a rogue and all the rest of it and so on and so forth. So...
24. Sorry, I was trying to do maths and really struggling.
24 is going to be a hit.
Okay. That is 6 points of damage.
Is that including your sneak attack? Ooh.
I rolled badly.
Oh dear. You get a kind of snarl from it, and it kind of really does seem to now notice you guys around the corner. Is there anything else you're going to do? Because you've moved and you've fired a shot. What are you going to do next?
Reload.
Okie dokie. That moves it on to Mosran.
Okay. Seeing how we've got a bit of a natural choke point here, and that's part of the reason I was called forward. Brief combat assessment. Am I likely to be sufficiently blocking this? Because I can see how the squares are laid out. or not? Do I think I can basically block this creature from getting through whilst I'm still up? Or is it going to be able to push past?
As with many things like this, pushing past something of an equal size to you is really, really difficult. This is a medium-sized creature. If it tried to go past you, it probably wouldn't have much of a chance.
Okay. In that case, then, there's no reason to be proactive in chasing it down there. Not if it's sneaking forward. I'm going to functionally brace. Because it takes 2 actions to hold 1 action.
It does indeed, yeah.
I don't think there's anything particularly wonderful that I can do otherwise. So we're going to stick with the common and the sensible. It's already been recognised. I'm going to... Well, question. I have an attack of opportunity. Would that also be in addition to a prepared action?
It could be, yes. Because as it moved in, because you've got reach, and that's the big thing, it's only because you've got reach. If you didn't have reach, then I would say no, just because of the way that attacks of opportunity work. But it's going to have to move through your reach, which means you get the attack of opportunity. But then you could also say, as soon as it's right next to me, I want to attack it, which would also happen first. So yes. And just due to the nuances, by the by, they would both be at full attack bonus. Because one would be a reaction and the other would be an action. And they are both separate, so you'd get 2 full benefit.
In that case, then we'll lay it up. My intent, attack of opportunity as and when it comes into range, so the reach to the 10-foot strike. And then when it closes into close range, so square against square, I will prep a brutish shove. Would that be treated as a second action? So I can use but it's a press, or
No,
would I just
it would
only be able
not,
to do it?
Unfortunately, it would not.
Okay. In that case, then just brace for 2 strikes, or brace for a strike.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so you brace for a strike. Phelan, it is your turn.
Okay, I am going to move up to provide some support, and I may as well toss a firebolt from produce flame at it. Come on, Boris, let's see how you like this.
Mildly provoke it.
Okay, 22 to hit.
A 22 is most definitely going to hit it, yes.
Excellent.
Even with any sort of layer of cover that might happen because there are people in your way.
And it can have 5 points of fire damage.
5 points of fire damage. This definitely goes through. There doesn't seem to be anything that stops it, and it kind of hisses ever so slightly as you do that to it. Inver, it is actually your turn as well. This thing is not the quickest creature in the world.
Okay. What can I do? Really little. Where is it? Where is it? That's a minute. I am this time going to reach forward and put my hand on Moz's weapon and cast Echoing Weapon.
Okay.
So you
That was legit.
I mean, you get a chance to reflex away from it if you really want to, but you channel magical energy into the target weapon, and the air around it faintly hums. Each time you strike, the impact is absorbed into the weapon. If a creature is wielding the weapon at the end of its turn, the weapon discharges a burst of sound targeting one creature adjacent to the wielder. The sonic damage this deals is equal to the number of successful strikes with the weapon that the wielder had made that turn to a maximum of 4.
Ouch!
Small amount of guaranteed
Nice.
extra damage.
Sorry, that's amazing.
Well, I did offer it the first time I met you, and you said no.
Wasn't appropriate at the time. You're only handling my weapon whilst we were in this wet corridor.
So, that I'm assuming is 2 actions.
That is 2 actions. And then for my last one, hey, guess what? I'm going to cast Shield.
A shock and a horror. It is at this point that the creature begins to just move forward towards Nephi. So, the first thing it does is it closes within your reach, moving within your range of attacks, and therefore you are able to make an attack of opportunity.
13 plus 11 for 24, please, boss.
Is a hit.
Good. And that's the D10. That's a 4 and 4 for 8.
For 8 points of damage. Okay, you dig into this thing. It has a very fleshy, fatty hide. The damage all goes through, but this creature looks like it can take a beating.
Second hit.
Second
As it
one, which
closes
is your
further.
actual action for this turn, because you readied it.
It's a 2 plus 11.
No, I'm afraid 2
Hero
plus
point.
11 is still
Ooh.
not going to do it. You do have a hero
because
point.
then you'll get extra damage off it at the end of your turn.
Yep. Cock it. That went off. Let's try the next one. That's a nat 20.
Hey!
Oh,
Alright,
nice.
fair enough. Fair enough. Right,
You'll take a photo of that
so
and put it on Insta.
that would be a D10 plus 4 doubled.
Youth. I'm going to mildly provoke the internet. Because I did say I was going to take a photo and post it up as and when, so that's going to go up. So roll a D10. Which is a 7 plus 4 for strength makes 11.
Yep.
Doubled to 22.
22. You take a huge lump out of this thing. There is not a lot of it left. And now you can see this sort of bubbling effect under the skin as something seems to be not going well on the insides of this creature. It's at this point that your blade then pops with sonic damage. It
Does
does,
it?
because they are still hits that you've done in your turn. You just delayed
Yeah.
your
My turn.
action.
Oh, okay. Cool. I was just
Yeah.
going to roll up for the 4th, but sure.
No, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but I'm gonna. It strikes made during the turn. Your turn has just happened to end slightly weirdly because you delayed your actions rather than them happening at exactly the right time. However, I'm gonna also go and pause. Okay, so after doing massive damage to this creature, it is, however, going to come in and it's going to try and hit Nephi, who's the original person. This is just the first strike. It comes in and it tries to clobber Nephi. An 8 on the dice for a 19.
Ah, yeah.
You take a rather large.
Does it get to do that? Because you mentioned the weapon started to vibrate with energy.
Yeah, it just popped with energy. It's taken another chunk out of this thing, but it's still going.
Okay, cool.
Nephi, you are going to take 14 points of damage as this thing slams its fist down onto you. It's then going to turn and go for Moz, who just did it a huge amount of damage, and so retribution.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
However, a 1 on the dice is almost certainly never going to hit. And then it's going to try one more time. It's got these fairly agile claws. That, on the other hand, is a 19 on the dice, with a +3 to that. That is going to hit.
Oh.
Yes, through.
And you are also going to take 14 points of damage as this claw slams down into you.
I could take it. It's gonna fucking have it.
Okay, we'll make sure that's appeared in its position in the combat tracker. Nephi, you get to go next.
Murderize it.
And you can see that there are bubbles appearing inside this creature.
I don't want to be here.
That's legit.
There are no words.
In fact, I need you to make a will save now that you are close enough to it that you can really hear its moaning and wailing.
26.
26 is a pass. It's not even kind of worth mentioning
You
that one.
sound so disappointed. You shoot it.
You're going to shoot it? Alright.
Mm-hmm. You said that there wasn't really a penalty for that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 19.
19 is a hit.
I rolled a 6.
6 points of damage. It is still going. But it's almost like it's inflating now. The entire thing is just on that brink.
I'm going to take the risk of an opportunity and just back the hell up.
You back up. There is no attack leveled at you as you move away.
I do the full 30.
Okay.
I'm in a lot of pain.
So that was an attack and a move. What are you doing
and then
for
I'm
the third
taking
one?
a lesser healing potion.
Well, you'll have to draw that from your pouch, so the drawing will be an action. Moz,
Oh my god.
please make a will saving throw.
I'll make a will saving throw. This is a will +4, mental resistance +2.
I will say that the mental resistance is applicable.
That's a 15 on the dice. The will is +4.
That is more than enough. You are not affected by this creature's moaning.
Stab it in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to do the world's biggest YouTube zip pop. Not with a fucking 2 I ain't.
No. A 2 + 11 is going to miss.
Let's try that again. It was that surgeon charge with the reversed halberd. It's not working for in here. Let's bring that down and under and strike up and through for a 19 plus 6.
A 19 is just on the dice. Yeah, that's definitely going to hit. I'd like you to roll damage.
It's like on 1 HP, isn't it? That's an 8 + 4 for 12.
So, you do this upward swing, cutting up through the belly, which you are dead happy with. It is most definitely going to kill this creature. You are 100% certain. And as you do, there is a popping noise from inside this creature. I need everyone who is within 30 foot and not hiding behind a wall, because I'm going to say Neffy is out of the way and as is Oleron, to please make a Fortitude saving throw.
Do it again.
I'm going
18
to
and
go...
8 for 26.
Okay, Moz, 26. Inva.
Fortitude, right?
Fortitude.
17 and 6 for 23.
Okay, Phelan.
18 and 5 for 23.
You all pass. However, it is a basic saving throw, which means you will still take damage, and you are all sickened 1. Just as a general note, because you are suddenly covered in acid and the internal organs of this creature.
Yay, Boris bitch.
All of you take 3 points of damage from the explosion of the creature.
Does sickened wear off after 1 round, or is it a persisting thing?
So, sickened is a persistent one. However, you can spend an action effectively throwing up to get rid of whatever's sort of bothering your tummy. So yeah,
How many points of damage? Sorry.
3 points of damage.
Okay.
3 points of damage for everybody.
Is Moss still standing?
I'm still there.
Right. Well, let's slap a heel on Moz first.
Let's get out of this room that is covered in spooge and bits.
I for a
Have-
short rest.
Have 12, Moz.
Appreciate it.
I mean, Neffy could do with some too.
Yeah. I think
And I'm
we
running
should
out.
retire to chamber.
Right.
We should probably recover.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got like 1 level of power left. That means I can do healing stuff with it.
Let's. How much of this critter is left? Is there enough of a face, a head, a distinctive body part?
I mean, there's body parts and skin and facial features, and the skull is still kind of intact. It's mostly the internal digestive system that is the thing that went pop. So most of it is still intact. Most of it.
I will take a couple of moments to sever the head with the halberd, because I think I've got one other severed head as well. Or is that... No, that's a different game. That's a different game. That's the other game. I've got a random bit of thing. Don't worry about that.
That is the other game, yeah.
Yep.
It's roughly at this point that you start hearing noise coming from the north of the large chamber. Not like a lot of things approaching at speed or aggressively, but it's the sound of one small set of feet very quietly stepping through into the cave, and you hear a voice. Inky? Inky? Are you alright, my little pet? Inky? And that's where we're gonna stop.
You're frantically gestures to be somewhere else.
Me.
Oh dear.
I took that potion, didn't I? I would have taken that potion.
You would have, yeah.
You would have had the time to take the potion. Yeah, we will do all of that sort of bits and pieces and get those things in. It's nice when there are quick solutions. I did manage to get some music going for the people on the recording, not for the players. So thankfully there will be a little bit of stuff in there. We will probably have to rush off now and work out what on earth went wrong and fix said system. But beyond that, I mean, I'm an IT professional. I'm going to make a guess. If I restart my computer, it'll be fine. These guys will obviously all be deep into discussing what they're going to do next, especially considering there is something coming down the tunnel towards them.
No way!
I'd
Advance in a
stabbing in the
rearward
face.
direction!
And we are going to be recording again next week. The idea is functionally to get us back on track to having some level of pre-recorded stuff, so there'll be a slight sync change effectively, but it also means that some of us will actually get some time off during the week, because we don't currently, but these plans are just the way that things shift around. In either case, thank you very much everybody for listening. Please do like, comment, subscribe if you've got this far. Seriously, it really helps us out. It really helps us out if people do that. And yeah, goodbye and see you next time. Bye bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.